So my name is Gregg Spiridellis, and along with my brother Evan, we started two companies. One was called Jib Jab, which was an internet company. It still is an internet company. We've sold it, but we started that in 1999, long time ago, and did everything from short comedy videos to personalized videos where you can put your friends into the videos. Has anyone seen like Elf Yourself or any of the Jib Jab videos online? And then, yeah, and then the other business that we started was a business called Storybots. And what we wanted to do with Storybots was create something that made really complicated ideas really fun to learn. And so we have a show on Netflix. If anyone has seen the show on Netflix, we have 3 seasons of the show on Netflix, and it's animated, and there's puppetry, and all sorts of celebrities have been on the show. And we have those 2 businesses. And then I also now have a new business where I'm developing a new app that I hope lots of people will be using in the near future.
Can you talk to the kids a little bit about your educational background and some of the things you were passionate about when you were a middle school student and a high school student?
Sure. So my background, my background was I went to public schools in New Jersey. I grew up in New Jersey with my brother. We both went to the public schools, and I played music. So my big thing, like in middle school and high school, is I loved to play music, and my brother loved to draw, and I wrote, and I'd like to write as well. So we both kind of went our different ways. My brother went to art school, and then I went to, of all places, Wall Street, and I spent 4 years on Wall Street and did my master's in business administration. And then we came back together. And so in 99, I graduated business school. My brother had been out of art school for a little bit. And we said, hey, there's this new thing called the internet. And if we make things, we can actually distribute it all around the world without having to go to a television network or a media company to get that distribution. So, so that was kind of our different backgrounds that we put together to start the company.
So, could you tell the kids what is your creative process like? Because when you guys were at Jib Jab, there was a lot of great videos and templates that you come out with, but at Storybots, man, it's the creativity must be, you know, astounding. How you guys create that? So, what is the creative process like with your production team?
Yeah, so we'll start with how many episodes of the show do we want to produce, and so we'll say we're going to produce 8 episodes in this season, and then we'll start with the question, because every Storybots episode starts with a kid asking a question, and I'll say, so what do we want to make the episode about? Like, how do airplanes fly? Why is the sky blue? We've done how do you hear, like, what, you know, we've explained DNA and genetics. So it really starts with the question. And then from the question, the next step is to actually, how do you explain this in a really clear, easy way? And so I'll typically go off and I'll write what we call a lesson doc, and it'll be bullet points. Like, here are the things that we need to communicate in this story. Here are the facts we need to communicate. And then from there, it's like open season on fun. It's like, what are all the insane, crazy, silly ways that we can communicate these facts? Because no one wants to just hear the lesson. I mean, that's the boring stuff. Like, we want to make it fun, so it's actually a great story. And we always say the lesson is like, you know, the show is like the sugar that makes the medicine go down. Like, no one wants to just sit down and read and learn about facts. But if we can make it absurd and silly and fun, then we can get the message across.
I mean, you guys have done some amazing things with yourself and your brother and your production team. And is there any episodes that kind of stand out for you?
That's a great question. I mean, they're all so different. That's the one thing about the show, is that every episode has a whole different look and feel and style visually as well. So, you know, they're like, I love the How to Ears Hear episode. I think that's like super fun, where they go into inside like the human ear and kind of have this crazy adventure. I also love the nutrition episode. Actually the question the kid asks is, why can't we eat dessert all the time? And there's a great stop motion, like a bunch of stop motion sequences that are awesome. So they're all so different. It's like asking me to pick, my favorite child. I've got 3 of them. I can't pick.
So can you tell us the very first episode of Storybots? I mean, I'm sure that's like a make or break kind of situation. Was that run kind of like a pilot episode? And for the students who aren't familiar with a pilot episode, can you kind of explain what that is?
Sure. So in a traditional television production, like a network or someone says, I'm not going to go spend the money to make 13 of these shows. That's really expensive. I'm going to go give you the money to make one of them. And then you prove to me that this is going to be really good as you say it's going to be. So that's a traditional process. Actually, we did something really different, and it's something that everyone here can do if you've got an idea for a show. We actually made short videos and put them on YouTube first. And so we made short videos, we put them on YouTube. We wound up getting tens of millions of views for those videos. And then that gave us the confidence, and there are 2 ways to go. One is you can go to a big company like a network and say, will you pay for this? And if they do, you basically give them all the rights. So now they own the characters and they can make the t-shirts and they can do everything. Well, we said, hey, we know this is working on YouTube. Let's take a bet on ourselves and let's pay for the show ourselves. And so we invested our own money and we produced 6 episodes. So we didn't do the traditional pilot process. And then once we had those 6 episodes, we took them to Netflix, and Netflix licensed them. So instead of buying them, they licensed them. And licensing means my brother and I continued to own all of the characters, everything else related to the show. But a license said, hey, Netflix, you can put this on your service. And so it was a risky bet, but it turned out to be good. Turned out to be the right move.
It seems like it's paid off quite a bit, especially with, all the awards and accolades that you guys have had, which is a lot to list in the couple or few seasons that you guys have been around. Do you mind if some of the students ask you some questions?
I'd love that. I know.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be great.
We have Mev in Italy. Mev, you should be able to unmute. I thought you had a great question. Go ahead and ask.
Thank you, Ralph. Hi, Greg. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
As a leader, how important is it to you to know what you want to achieve and have a good relationship with others in entrepreneurship?
That is such a magnificent question. So the first part of it is, how important is it to know what you want to achieve? That is absolutely critical. It's probably the most important part of your journey, is to define what success looks like, because otherwise you don't know if you got there. And so, and that can be bad in 2 ways. One is you don't realize that you're moving off course. And the other is, when you achieve, you should celebrate it and celebrate yourself for doing the work to get there. And I think if you don't have clear markers of what success looks like, then you could go off course, or you could miss the opportunity to give yourself a good pat on the back for getting the job done. The second question is about leadership, and how important is it to have good relations with the people who are working with you. And it's critical. There's only so much you can do as, say, an individual contributor, someone who's drawing or someone who's writing. Really, the magic happens when you bring a group of talented people together and everyone is motivated, again, to your first point about that goal that you've defined for everybody. So, in terms of leadership, it's trusting the people who work for you, it's mentoring them and helping them do their best work. And my job as CEO, or my job when I'm leading a creative effort, is to say, what can I do for these first of all, it's to find the talented people and convince them to come on board. And then the question I ask myself is, how can I help them be the best versions of themselves and do the best work that they're capable of doing.
That's a great answer. We have a question from Mateo in Spain. Mateo, I'm unmuting you. Go ahead and ask your question. I thought it was awesome. Mateo, you're unmuted, friend. Okay, I'll ask Mateo's question. So Mateo wanted to know, how did you come up with the Netflix series? Like, were you guys just kind of like sitting around and saying, let's kind of make a different educational program, or how did that happen?
Another great question. So first of all, inspiration can come from anywhere. So you always need that spark, that thing that makes you go, that could be interesting. And so for myself and my brother, it was having kids. And we had young kids at the time. It was 2011. Our kids ranged from ages 6, or it was like age 1 to 6. So they were in the zone of kids that we thought would be fun to chat with. And then the other thing is, you looked at the world and we said, there's nothing we as grown-ups want to watch with our kids. Every show is basically talking down to kids, where it's like, just talking down to them. It's just not real. It doesn't feel like the kind of thing that a grown-up and a kid would want to watch together. And what I mean by that is, think about, Caillou versus Pixar. And we said, there's a lot of Caillou on TV. Like, we think we can bring Pixar quality storytelling to television and make a show for kids that grown-ups would enjoy watching as well.
And we are certainly glad that you did. So as a parent, thank you. So we have Matt in Italy. Matt, you had an awesome question. Go ahead and ask it.
Hi, nice to meet you. My question is, what did you feel and what did you think when you received the first Emmy nomination for the show?
Oh, that's a great question. What do we feel when we got the first Emmy nomination? So, and this goes back to the first question about setting goals and knowing what success looks like. So when we started Storybots, my brother and I said, what's the craziest goal we could set for ourselves? And it was like, we're going to win an Emmy for our show, which is like totally nuts. Like, we had never made a television show before. It was a very, very big, audacious goal. And so when that first nomination came in, actually, I think we got 5 or 6 nominations, we found out, for the first season. And that was just amazing. I mean, it's like, if any of you have set goals for yourself or achieved something that you had hoped you might achieve, but never realistically thought you could, that will give you a sense for it. But it was just such a magnificent feeling, and it was so gratifying to see the big goal that we set for ourselves actually realized.
We'll go with one more student question before we let you go. So we have a question from Arvalo in Spain, and he wanted to know, what was the first idea that you had to create your first business? Like, how as a young adult?
Yep. Okay, so my first business was when I was in 7th grade, and I went to the supermarket and I bought big bags of candy, and then I sold them off one by one on the school bus. So that was my first business. But after that, it was really centered around technology and looking at ways that technology could make things that were being done better, to make them easier, to make them faster, to make them less expensive. And so I had some ideas when I was in business school that I had kind of lightly pursued that just didn't work out. Like, they were a little bit too ahead of their time. The technology wasn't ready yet. People weren't ready for those ideas yet. And so the first real business that took off was Jib Jab, the one that I started with my brother, and the one that we spent. And I will say, when I say take off, it took us 5 years to have our first real success. but we believe that the internet created this really interesting opportunity for creators to make things and distribute them. And we stuck with it. And, you know, it took 5 years, but that one paid off. And from there, we were able to kind of, you know, jump into the other businesses that we started after that.
Well, before we let you go, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to speak
You're
to
welcome.
hundreds.
I take 1 or 2 more questions if you have them. I'd be okay with that.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
I'm so impressed with these kids all over the world. You guys are all asking awesome questions. I'm so impressed with you guys.
So we have Irene. She just sent a great question. Irene, what country are you in? And you can go ahead and ask your question. If you allow me to unmute. There you go, Irene.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm from Spain.
Hi.
And I want to tell you a question that how did inspiration come to achieve what you have done so far?
That's great. So where did the inspiration come from? So I'd mentioned with Storybots, the inspiration was from our kids. It was really like, actually, I will say it was from our kids and was solving our own problems. Sometimes your inspiration can look for inspiration when you get frustrated, right? We all get frustrated. Next time you're frustrated at something, say, hey, how could I make it better? And for Storybots, that inspiration was, we've got these young kids and there's nothing on television that we want to sit down and watch with them. Let's go solve that problem. So I think a lot of times inspiration can come from channeling energy that, you know, exists as frustration into curiosity and problem solving. So the next time you get frustrated, think, is there something I could build? Is there some service that could be offered that would solve this problem? That's a great place if you're looking to be an entrepreneur to spend some time thinking about. And then the inspiration for Jib Jab was a little bit broader than that. It was just curiosity and wonder at how the internet was going to change the world, because here we are, you know, you guys are distributed all over the world and we're talking on video, and this is the world you're growing up in. And, you know, and it's amazing and it's miraculous that we can all connect like this, and you can tell stories and you can make something. Any one of you could make something and put it on YouTube or TikTok and it'll be all over the world. That didn't exist, you know, when we started Jib Jab. It was nothing. And so it was really the curiosity of what is this world going to look like when, you know, in 2021, I can be talking to kids all over the world on a video chat. And it's going to be so different, and that's exciting, and let's go build something for that future world.
And speaking of future, we have Arvelo again. Let's see if you can unmute this time, friend. Is your microphone working, friend? All right. He wanted to know if you have any plans for the future as far as like any shows for the future. Like what idea?
Great question. So Netflix bought our company in 2019. And so now my brother and I are working with Netflix to produce entirely new Storybots shows. So we're actually producing what are called spin-off shows that take the original concept and then explore them in different ways. So we have a new show that'll launch next year, which is really fun. It's got the same format where Storybots are answering questions, but we're answering lots and lots of questions, so lots of short videos. And so that's kind of where most of our creative effort is being focused these days.
That's great, and we can't wait to see it. We have one more student question. This is Beatrice. And Beatrice, go ahead. Might have some microphone issues there. So Beatrice wanted to know, what do you think is like the best project that you've ever worked on, that's your absolute favorite project? Because both Jib Jab as well as Storybots are, you know, legendary in their own right. So which one, if you had to choose one, or is that more of like along the lines of your favorite child?
Yeah, that's like asking to choose my favorite kid. I can't do that. They're all great in their own unique ways. Every project has been really interesting for really different reasons. You know, Jib Jab was about figuring out figuring it out. Like we live in a world now where everyone's connected, and online entertainment is something that's just part of our lives. Jib Jab was exciting because we had to figure it out. Okay, what kind of videos work online, and how do we build a business model? And Jib Jab was really solving a lot of these problems. That was really fun. And then Storybots was, okay, like, we made short videos. Now we're going to make a TV show. How do we tell a 22-minute story? We'd never done that before. That's a half-hour television show. So I think, all the I can't pick a favorite, but I will tell you, it's like new challenges are exciting to us. We get bored like easily. So like we could have like gone and just made more Storybots episodes of the same show in the same format, but we're like, no, let's go make different kinds of shows with the characters, and let's solve new kinds of problems. And that's what gets us excited. That's what we're passionate about.
We're definitely thankful for yours and your brother Evan's creativity. You guys have done some amazing stuff, and we can't wait to see what's on the horizon. Before we let you go, is there any advice that you could give to these students who are around the world, who are going off into the world, figuring out what they want to do? What kind of advice would you give to them as somebody who obviously pivoted your career quite a bit to become incredibly successful in another industry?
I would say follow your passion. Don't over-engineer your career. Don't think 10 steps ahead. Don't chase the money. Find the things that like innately interest you, that you're curious about, that you want to spend your time doing. That's how you'll be the best at something. And if you do that, I think success follows. It's hard to be successful if you don't have that passion and that curiosity. That's innate, that's authentic, that's something that like you wake up and you want to do it. It's just something that you love.